Chapter 387. The Advancing Journey to the West. Rat Tide? Lin Chia looked at the scene before him in astonishment, instantly recalling the rat swarms he had seen in the underground caverns of Tsangnan City. And Qingyu had extracted the abilities of fish species from the Nantua serpent demon, which he was aware of, but he never expected that in just 1 year, and Qingyu could expand the rat tide to such a massive scale. Dense swarms of gray rats, guided by Qingyu, scurried into the surrounding streets and buildings, like a net gradually spreading out, slowly merging into the mist. With the rat tide present, things would indeed be much simpler. But that wasn't enough. The corners of Lin Chia's mouth lifted slightly as he looked up at the top of the mist, a hint of darkness flickering in his eyes. Under the night sky, bats and owls flew up from the edges of the city, passing through the purple mist, swirling above Lin Chia's head like a black cloud. Lin Chia stared at this black cloud for a moment, then waved his hand lightly. The bats and owls circling in the air seemed to receive a command, swiftly scattering in all directions. After Lin Chia advanced to the Chuan realm, the ability brought by the starry night dancer to communicate with nocturnal creatures was greatly enhanced. Not only could he forcibly read the minds of worker ants as before, but he could also actively summon nearby nocturnal creatures to his side. Bailey Pang Pang stared blankly at this scene and couldn't help but chuckle. Another rat tide and birds, is this a heavenly net? Lin Chia smiled slightly. Fortunately, this mental pollution only affects humans. With this heavenly net in place, finding Belkrand wouldn't be a difficult task. And Qingyu nodded and continued, however, we still need to guard against its attacks. This mental pollution mist was created by it, and it must have sensed us entering. A year ago, it was us who disrupted its promotion ceremony, and now that it has regained its full strength, it will likely come looking for trouble. If it comes, that would be perfect. We can just wipe it out and call it a day, Bailey Pang Pang said confidently. It's not that simple. And Qingyu shook his head. Don't forget, over 10 hours ago, Team 017 stationed here already entered the mist. Now, aside from the captain, the rest have likely succumbed. So we are facing not only an overseas mystery at the Sea Realm but also an entire team of manipulated night watchmen from Suzhou. Upon hearing this, Chao Yuan's expression turned serious. That does sound a bit tricky. If this team holds us back, we will find ourselves in a very passive situation. And Qingyu said earnestly, although in a 5v5 scenario we shouldn't lose. If we get bogged down, it could mobilize a large number of innocent civilians to come over, using a human wave tactic to pin us down. It knows we won't attack ordinary civilians? So smart. Bailey Pang Pang said with a pained expression, feeling that what initially seemed simple had become so complicated after Qingyu's words. That is an overseas mystery that can plan a disaster endangering tens of thousands of lives even in a dying state. We cannot underestimate it. Lin Chia spoke up. This is essentially a psychological game. And Qingyu said calmly, since we entered this mist, my game with it, which has been paused for a year, has already begun. So, you already have a countermeasure? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. I do, but it carries relatively high risks. And Qingyu adjusted his glasses. The best method right now is to split into groups. Seven Knight and I are the culprits who disrupted its promotion ceremony a year ago. As long as we two leave the team, we can significantly divert its attention and attract its hatred. I will leave a rat near the three of you. Once my rat tide finds the location of Belkrand, it will lead you there to carry out the extermination task. Split into groups. But if you two attract fire, can the three of us really take down that Sea Realm mystery? Chao Yuan frowned. And Qingyu smiled slightly. This question is simple. Seven Knight, just leave them a knife. Upon hearing this, Lin Chia was taken aback for a moment, then a glimmer of understanding appeared in his eyes and he smiled. You mean after they find Belkrand, I can summon you back to join their battlefield? Lin Chia nodded. The plan of splitting forces had turned into a feint. This method is quite good. Bailey Pang Pang finally understood the entire plan and looked at Qingyu with a strange expression, envy in his eyes. You can think of such a method? How does your brain work? And you? Chao Yuan looked at Qingyu. If you find yourselves in danger and Seven Knight summons you back, what will you do alone? And Qingyu waved his hand. Don't worry, I won't be in trouble. I have a backup plan. Seeing Qingyu so confident, Lin Chia nodded. In that case, let's follow Qingyu's plan, split into two groups and feint to the east while striking to the west. Wait. Bailey Pang Pang seemed to think of something and suddenly raised his hand. Everyone looked at him. I have a question. Bailey Pang Pang said seriously. You just said we might confront Team 017 head-on. If we give them a good beating, what if they remember our faces when they get out? Lin Chia. How did you even think of such an absurd point? Chao Yuan couldn't help but retort. Lin Chia thought for a moment, his gaze sweeping over the surrounding streets until he spotted a certain shop, his eyes lighting up. This can be easily solved. We just need to cover our faces. He stepped forward and walked straight to the children's toy store across the street. At this moment, the once bustling street was now completely deserted, with not a single person in the shops on either side, leaving one to wonder where they had all gone. Lin Chia entered the toy store and took a few plastic masks from the shelves at the entrance, distributing them to everyone. He first gave Bailey Pang Pang a Zhu Beiji mask, then gave Chao Yuan a Sha Monk mask, followed by a Tang Xing mask for Qingyu, keeping a Sun Wukong mask for himself, and finally handed a scruffy-faced Li Kuei mask to Jia Lon. Lin Chia's hand paused slightly as he silently returned the Li Kuei mask to the shelf. After pondering for a moment, he took down a red boy mask and handed it to Jia Lon, then lowered his head to put on his own mask. His gaze swept over his companions who had transformed into characters from Journey to the West, and he nodded in satisfaction. Perfect. Chapter 388, The Wrong Prey. Gusu City. In the center of the mist. The southern gate. This magnificent structure, resembling a pair of autumn pants and towering above the clouds, is one of the landmarks of Gusu City. At the top of this gate-like building, two figures stand under the night sky, quietly observing the city shrouded in fog below. The evening breeze brushes against the woman's black curly long hair, revealing a bewitching and enchanting face. Her pair of eerie vertical pupils resemble those of a snake, gazing ahead with a smile that is neither a smile nor a frown. If Lin Chia were here, he would instantly recognize this alluring woman with a twisted aura. Last year, just before the new year, the two had a fierce battle on an old street, and it was only due to the intervention of the believer Han Xiaoyun that she managed to escape. She is the evil god of the ancient god church, the agent of Medusa, code-named Snake Woman. It seems the prey has arrived, she said, tucking a strand of black hair behind her ear, her voice languid. Beside her, a man cloaked in a black coat, tall and imposing like an iron tower, frowned slightly. No, it's not the Phoenix team that's coming. The Snake Woman was taken aback, her long eyebrows knitting together. Wasn't it said that when encountering foreign mysteries, it would definitely be the Phoenix team handling it? That is indeed the case, the tower-like man replied slowly, but it is certain that the Phoenix team wouldn't parachute down from a plane. That's too low level. The Snake Woman hesitated for a moment. Could it be another special team? Impossible, the man asserted. Currently, the only special teams active in the outside world are the Mediums, the Phoenix and the Masquerade. The Mediums always operate from the Thunder God Pillar, the Phoenix rides on a phoenix and the Masquerade floats directly in the air. They could never use such primitive methods to land. The Snake Woman's snake-like eyes swept over the three black boxes beside her, a look of regret appearing in her eyes. The captain of the Phoenix team, Xia Siming, is our main target for this operation. If she doesn't come, then our three specially prepared forbidden items for her, along with the hard-to-catch Belcland, would all be for nothing, right? The man hesitated for a moment. Let's wait and see. Although it's not a special team, since they were sent by the higher-ups of the Night Watch to deal with Belcland, they shouldn't be nameless. Since we've given up on Belcland, we should at least gain something in return. The Snake Woman's gaze fell into the depths of the purple mist as she licked her lips. Should I go meet them? Not yet, the man said calmly. Let's wait for that group of useless pawns to probe the situation first. On the empty, deserted street, Lin Chia, wearing a Sun Wukong mask, and Qingyu, wearing a Tang Xing mask, were silently walking forward. The dim streetlights cast shadows along the quiet roadside, stretching and slowly shortening the shadows of the two. Even though the entire center of Gusu City was enveloped in fog, the power supply was still functioning normally. The neon lights on the distant southern gate flickered continuously, repeatedly forming the words I Gusu. And Qingyu walked by the lakeside, took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. What's wrong? Lin Chia turned to ask. And Qingyu shook her head. It's nothing. I just haven't walked in a city like this for a long time. From the sewers of Tsangnan to the fasting center, then to the primeval forest. Suddenly returning to normal human society feels quite nice. Lin Chia was slightly taken aback and smiled bitterly. It's a pity that if it weren't for the mission I could wander around this city more. When I was in Tsangnan I often heard my aunt talk about how great Gusu is and that she wanted me to come here for university. He raised his head looking at the calm lake surface, murmuring to himself, now there's no chance to go to university and the person who wanted me to go is no longer here. And Qingyu looked at him for a moment. I always feel that when the two of us walk together, the atmosphere starts to become melancholic. And Qingyu also smiled bitterly. I'm used to that fatty Bailey being around to liven things up. It's a bit uncomfortable suddenly being so quiet. That's true, Lin Chia chuckled. It's quite hard to be with a group of people all day without talking. Having a not-so-bright clown around is also nice. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Chia seemed to sense something and suddenly stopped. And Qingyu halted as well, frowning slightly. What's wrong? Lin Chia frowned as he looked ahead. At the end of the dimly lit road, dozens of figures were holding hands, silently walking forward from the darkness, their eyes vacant, their steps eerily synchronized, their bodies incredibly stiff. They resembled a moving wall of people with those at both ends pressing against the walls as they moved forward. Dozens of people shoulder to shoulder with not a single gap in between, completely blocking the entire road. Residents affected by mental pollution? And Qingyu observed the scene before her, her expression tightening. They must be here to hold us back. Strange, why didn't they directly send Team 017 to kill us? I don't know. Lin Chia shook his head, his gaze falling on the office buildings and shops on either side. But it seems we are already surrounded. One after another zombie-like figures emerged from the windows on both sides, their hollow eyes staring at the two in the center of the road, while a large number of people queued down the stairs, surging toward the street like a tide. And Qingyu looked back and saw that on the street they had come from, there were also dozens of people holding hands, shoulder to shoulder, slowly moving toward them like a human wall. Hundreds, even thousands of mentally polluted citizens surrounded the entire street, making it impossible to escape. At this level they shouldn't be able to trap you, right? Lin Chia turned to Qingyu. She nodded. I'm fine. Lin Chia responded with a his fingertips gently pressing on the handle of the black box, and a straight knife sprang out from beside the box, shrouded in darkness, hovering in the air, automatically unsheathing. Clay. Look at that tall building in the southeast, Lin Chia said calmly. In the next moment the straight knife hovering beside him whistled out, flying straight toward the skyscraper standing in the darkness, a magical glow enveloping Lin Chia's figure, and in an instant he vanished. And Qingyu sighed deeply, a hint of envy in her voice. What a convenient ability. With a sudden burst of strength, he leaped to an astonishing height from the road, then gracefully landed on the vertical surface of the building, his limbs adhering to it. An invisible thread shot from his palm, piercing into the wall of the opposite building, and then like Spider-Man he effortlessly swung over the encircling crowd below, disappearing into the night. Chapter 389. Team 017. Why do I have to wear Zhu Beiji? Bai Li Pangpang drooped his head, his chubby face filled with resentment beneath the silly pig mask. Chao Yuan, wearing the Sha monk mask, patted his shoulder and comforted him. At least you didn't get Li Kuei, be grateful for that. Beside them Jiaolan's body stiffened slightly. Ahem. Bai Li Pangpang scratched his head. So, Zhu Beiji doesn't seem too bad. At least he's a bit whiter than Li Kuei. At this moment, the three were walking along a path that was completely opposite to Lin Chia and his companion, moving deeper into the mist beside a huge lake in the center of Suzhou City that resembled a golden rooster. Not far away the Ferris wheel by the lakeside sparkled with brilliant lights, but the cabins were empty with no one inside. Old Chow, what do you think? My dad's birthday is coming up in a few days. What should I get him as a gift? Bai Li Pangpang seemed to have thought of something and said with some hesitation. What does he like? It seems he doesn't have anything he likes. He's the type who always has a stern face, obsessed with the company and forbidden items, showing no interest in anything else. I've grown up and have never seen him smile. Never smiled. Not even at you. No, Bai Li Pang Pang sighed. I guess my existence is just a beautiful accident he left behind when he was young. Chow Yuan carefully examined Bai Li Pang Pang. Well, an accident is indeed an accident, whether it's beautiful or not. I guess, given your dad's status, anything that can be bought with money wouldn't be suitable. After all, he's the richest man in the entire Great Xia. Chow Yuan pondered aloud. What else is there that money can't buy? Bai Li Pang Pang scratched his head. Chow Yuan thought for a moment. How about after the mission is over, you go to a temple and ask for a talisman for him? Ask for a talisman? A peace talisman personally requested by descendants for their parents should be quite unique in the world. Chow Yuan said, and this talisman also contains your good wishes for him. He should like it. After all, which father wouldn't want their child to be filial? Upon hearing this, Bai Li Pang Pang's eyes lit up. That's a good suggestion. Suzhou has quite a few temples. After the cleanup mission is over, I'll go ask for one. As the two continued walking and chatting casually, Jialan quietly listened, a faint smile occasionally appearing at the corners of her mouth. Ding! Under the dark sky, a melodious gouging sound suddenly rang out. The three of them froze simultaneously. On the surface of the lake, the calm water was suddenly sliced open, as if an invisible blade had swept across its surface, instantly shattering the stone railing by the shore and coming right before the three. Jialan's pupils suddenly constricted, and she stepped forward, standing in front of the two, extending her fair hand to grasp that invisible blade. The invisible blade struck her palm without any flourish, the wind lifting the wide sleeves of her blue robe, her black hair dancing. Jialan frowned slightly, her gaze falling on the center of Silver Chicken Lake. There, at some unknown time, a graceful figure draped in a dark red cloak was sitting on a flower-laden boat in the middle of the lake, with a carved gouging in front of her, her fingertips hovering in the air. That's... Bai Li Pang Pang's eyes widened. It's Team 017. Before Chow Yuan could finish, Bai Li Pang Pang excitedly shouted the next line. It's a beauty. Chow Yuan closed his mouth in frustration. This aura. They say Suzhou is famous for its beauties, and it seems to be true. Bai Li Pang Pang remarked with emotion. Jialan turned her head and shot Bai Li Pang Pang a fierce glare. Bai Li Pang Pang cleared his throat twice, retracting his admiring gaze, and spoke seriously. If I'm not mistaken, she must have been tainted by that so-called young Master Baal. Let me save her from this predicament. Chow Yuan rolled his eyes. Is that your guess? That was deduced by Qingyu. I don't care. A golden light flashed across the necklace on Bai Li Pang Pang's chest, transforming into a golden flying sword. He stepped onto his shoulder and shot like a streak of light toward the boat in the center of the lake. Don't be afraid, miss. I'm here to save you. Just as Bai Li Pang Pang flew halfway across the lake, several gouging notes rang out again. Ding ding ding. With each pluck of the strings by that graceful figure, accompanied by the melodious gouging sound, a sharp sound blade flew out from the strings, whistling through the air. Bai Li Pang Pang's determined face was filled with confidence as he pulled a withered wooden broom from his pocket and swung it hard at the incoming sound blades. A hurricane mixed with surging thunder erupted from the end of the wind and thunder roll, colliding with several sound blades, creating invisible shockwaves that exploded in front of the two, sending arcs of water splashing up from the lake below. Holding the broom, Bai Li Pang Pang rode the flying sword, breaking through the white waves and charging toward the boat. Such a weak attack can't stop me at all. He smiled confidently. On the boat, that graceful figure fell silent for a moment, then pulled out two shiny brass gongs from beneath the gouging. Bai Li Pang Pang's expression suddenly stiffened. Clang! The piercing sound of the gongs erupted from the center of the lake, and a terrifying sound blade storm directly blasted the surrounding water surface, instantly knocking Bai Li Pang Pang, broom and all, off his flying sword, sending him tumbling dozens of meters through the air before splashing into the water with a loud splash, creating large ripples. On the shore, Chow Yuan's expression changed, and he quickly dodged to crouch behind a nearby stone wall. The next moment, a barrage of sound blades struck the stone wall's surface, leaving deep knife marks. How can she still use gongs? Chow Yuan couldn't help but complain. That doesn't fit her image at all. Jialan stood firm amidst the sound blade storm, frowning as she watched the scene, seemingly hesitating whether to step forward to help that chubby boy. Suddenly she felt something poke her. She was taken aback, waved her hand to pat her shoulder, and continued to look ahead as if nothing had happened. Then the poking sensation occurred again. This time she quickly turned her head, reached up to scratch her shoulder, and found a very thin thread in her hand, her eyes filled with confusion. What is this? Beside her, Chao Yuan's body suddenly trembled, and his arm involuntarily lifted. His brow furrowed tightly as he struggled to control his body, but it felt as if someone else was manipulating him, making it impossible to move freely. This is bad. Chao Yuan's expression darkened. He suddenly looked up toward the distance, where he saw a gaunt young man in a dark red cloak standing on a nearby rooftop, his fingers slightly curled, seemingly controlling something. Chao Yuan's hand uncontrollably reached for the hilt of his knife, and he turned to Jialon urgently shouting, "You take Bai Li Pang Pang and get out of here." Chapter 390, Jialon vs. Chao Yuan. On the other side. At the top of a towering skyscraper, Lin Chia stood in the darkness, holding a knife in one hand. Suddenly, a violent explosion echoed from afar. He paused for a moment, then turned sharply to look. That is, they have encountered Team 017 head-on. And Qingyu's figure floated down from mid-air, landing lightly on the ground. She stood up and looked towards the source of the sound, frowning as she spoke. How many are there on the other side? Lin Chia asked. And Qingyu slightly closed her eyes, using the mental link between the rat tide to observe the situation from a distance. 2, she replied calmly, but their forbidden ruins seem to be very restrained against Bai Li Pang Pang and Chao Yuan, and their strength is quite formidable. The situation is not optimistic. The night watch team stationed in Gusu City naturally won't be weak. Lin Chia pondered for a moment, then turned to Qingyu. What do you think their chances of winning are? Do I need to teleport over to support them now? According to the original plan, this reverse summoning and fainting maneuver was supposed to be used during the final confrontation with Belcrand, and if Lin Chia teleported over now, the original layout would be disrupted, turning them from the active party into the passive one in an instant. Moreover, this would put Qingyu in a dangerous situation where she would have to act alone, making her an easy target for Belcrand. Therefore, Lin Chia should not teleport over unless absolutely necessary. And Qingyu hesitated for a moment before speaking. Without Jialon, their chances of winning are less than 30%. Lin Chia was slightly taken aback. What if we include Jialon? And Qingyu raised her head, a slight smile appearing at the corners of her mouth. 80%. By Silver Chicken Lake. Chao Yuan's hand slowly gripped the hilt of his straight knife, invisible threads wrapping around his joints. A strange power surged through the threads into his body, controlling every inch of his muscles. He gritted his teeth, beads of sweat the size of beans sliding down his cheeks, but the power in his hand grew stronger. You should leave. With Chia not here, you can't hold me down. Chao Yuan glared at Jialon, gritting his teeth. Jialon calmly looked at him, drawing a light yellow hardwood bow from her back, nocking an arrow and aiming at the figure standing on the rooftop. Out of the corner of her eye, she glanced at Chao Yuan, her lips slightly parted. Don't worry. Seemingly sensing Jialon's killing intent, the figure on the rooftop suddenly curled a finger, and the power in Chao Yuan's hand instantly surged several times. Crack. With a light sound, the straight knife was pulled half an inch from its sheath. In the next moment, black flames instantly engulfed Chao Yuan's entire body, a surge of murderous aura erupting from him. He seemed to transform into a ferocious killing machine, wielding the black flame straight knife, his eyes devoid of any clarity. Hee. He let out a sinister laugh, his crimson eyes fixed on the only living being in front of him, and in an instant he charged forward. At the moment Chao Yuan's forbidden ruins were unleashed, the figure on the rooftop suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, staggering back a few steps. Blood appeared at the tips of all 10 fingers, and the threads that had wrapped around Chao Yuan's body were instantly severed. He was backfired by Chao Yuan's murderous aura. But this did not hinder Chao Yuan's rampage. Jialon felt the howling wind rushing beside her, her expression slightly tightening. She quickly placed the hardwood bow behind her, raised her hands slightly, and assumed a battle stance filled with ancient charm. The blade, wrapped in black murderous aura, slashed directly towards Jialan's throat. Jialan showed no intention of dodging, staring at the knife as it came for her, her eyes not blinking. Clay. The blade struck Jialan's slender neck, producing a soft hum. Neither the murderous flames nor the sharp blade could pierce her skin, as if it had struck an indestructible steel plate, unable to leave a mark. At the same time, one of Jialan's hands shot out like lightning, gripping the throat of the frenzied Chao Yuan, while the other hand seized his collar and suddenly pulled. The frenzied Chao Yuan was forcibly lifted, thrown over her shoulder and slammed into the ground beneath them. Bricks shattered and flew. The frenzied Chao Yuan let out a roar, and the moment his back hit the ground, a terrifying force erupted, propelling him off the ground like a cannonball, crashing into Jialan. The two figures flew low, smashing through several stone walls, and Jialan's form was embedded into the last stone wall. Thick smoke billowed and the frenzied Chao Yuan turned the knife around, wildly hacking at Jialan. The black flames erupted, engulfing the surrounding environment. Hee. Crack. Suddenly, a pale hand emerged from the smoke, gripping the blade of the black flame's straight knife tightly. Jialan stepped out from the shattered stone wall, delivering a powerful side kick that sent the frenzied Chao Yuan flying over 10 meters. He plunged the straight knife into the ground mid-air, dragging it to create a long crack to stabilize himself. Dressed in a blue Han robe, Jialan emerged from the smoke unblemished. She stepped forward, her delicate brows furrowing as she looked at Chao Yuan with a displeased gaze, seemingly provoked. She extended her hand, beckoning to the frenzied Chao Yuan. Come. Bang. Both of them exerted force with their feet, shattering the stone slabs beneath them, their figures moving so fast that they left afterimages in the air, crashing into each other with a thunderous sound. Meanwhile, Bai Li Pangpang finally managed to poke his head above the lake's surface, gasping for fresh air. Suddenly, his peripheral vision caught a glimpse of the violent scene of two humanoid beasts battling on the shore, and his expression froze. Holy Mother! Is this girl that fierce? Fush. A boat glided lightly to his side, and Bai Li Pangpang looked up in shock, seeing a beautiful woman standing at the bow, her hollow gaze fixed on him floating on the lake. They all deserve to die. The ancient God Church deserves to die. If it weren't for you, Captain Han wouldn't have left. Her lips parted and indistinct words spilled from her throat. She reached behind her and pulled out a swona, slowly bringing it to her lips. Bai Li Pangpang. Damn, this is outrageous. Fortunately, I was prepared. Bai Li Pangpang suddenly reached out a hand, grasping in mid-air. A dull thud echoed from beneath the water, followed by a blinding flash of light erupting from the center of the boat, shooting into the sky. The bow of the boat shook violently and the beautiful woman's figure swayed, nearly falling into the water. Bai Li Pangpang reacted quickly and Yao Guang instantly knocked the swona from her hands. Then the entire boat split in half, water surged over the bow, dragging all the instruments into the depths of the lake, and the woman lost control, falling into the water. I just spent so long underwater I didn't do nothing. Bai Li Pangpang stood on Yao Guang, pulling it up from the water. Then he took out the sealing scroll from his pocket, blocking the woman's mouth while starting to bind her body. Chapter 391. The Grey Mouse Behind. Bai Li Pangpang dragged the bound beauty onto the flying sword, swaying as it flew toward the shore. Under the effect of the sealing scroll, she was unable to make any sound, forced to lie obediently on the flying sword, her eyes blankly staring at the sky, her lips seemingly murmuring something. Boom. By the lake, two figures, one blue and one black, collided once more. Jialan ignored Chao Yuan's frenzied attacks, elbowing his knife-wielding hand aside, darting in front of him like lightning. With a swift motion, her palm struck upward against Chao Yuan's jaw, sending him flying backward. Seizing the opportunity, she gracefully leaped up, her blue wide sleeves brushing through the air like a fluttering butterfly, her ankle kicking down like a battle axe onto Chao Yuan's chest. Thud. Madman Chao Yuan was directly kicked into the ground, embedded in the stone bricks. Black malevolent flames blazed fiercely as Jialan, expressionless, walked to his side and stomped heavily on his chest, driving him further into the earth. Hero. Hero. Bai Li Pangpang flew in on his sword from the side. Witnessing this scene, he couldn't help but swallow hard and tossed a roll of tape to Jialan. Use this. Chao Yuan's chastity lock. Jialan reached out to catch the tape. Having seen Lin Chia use it in the palace of the Emperor of Fengdu, she was now extremely skilled, tearing off a large strip from the tape and wrapping it tightly around the madman Chao Yuan's neck several times, causing the surrounding malevolent flames to gradually subside. Cough cough cough. Gradually regaining his senses, Chao Yuan felt he was about to suffocate, pointing at the tape tightly wrapped around his neck, his face starting to turn pale. Oh no. Sister Lon. Bailey Pang Pang tentatively spoke, are you tightening it too much? I feel like he's about to choke to death. Jialan was taken aback, seeing Chao Yuan's state. She hurriedly fumbled to pull the tape off his neck. Finally able to breathe again, Chao Yuan lay on the ground, lifeless like a salted fish that had lost its dreams. Jialan leaned closer to him, her black gem-like eyes blinking, filled with regret. I'm sorry. No need. Chao Yuan spoke weakly. You did well, just remember to be lighter next time. Cough 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 cough. Chao Yuan struggled to get up from the ground, his body covered in wounds. He let out a long breath, finally feeling like he was alive again. At that moment, Jialan seemed to remember something, standing up and fixing her gaze on a member of Team 017 manipulating muscles on the rooftop nearby. She took down the hard wooden bow from her back, nocked an arrow and aimed at that figure. But the arrow did not shoot. She hesitated. After a moment she lowered her bow. Why aren't you shooting? Bailey Pang Pang asked in confusion from the side. Jialan pointed at her arrow, then at the injured member of Team 017 who had been backfired by Chao Yuan's malevolent energy, mumbling. Him, dead. Are you saying that if you shoot this arrow he might die? Bailey Pang Pang pondered for a moment, then nodded. Right, your arrows are not something an ordinary person can withstand, so let me handle it. He placed the captured beauty on the ground, stepped onto the flying sword and flew toward that figure. About 4 or 5 minutes later, Bailey Pang Pang returned, dragging a similarly bound, emaciated man. So easy? Chao Yuan exclaimed in surprise. Your malevolent energy backfired on him pretty badly. I hardly did anything and he passed out. Bailey Pang Pang shrugged, glancing at Jialan, expressing some relief. Thankfully Sister Lon was here. Otherwise I really couldn't handle you. He patted Chao Yuan on the shoulder and laughed. Now there's one more person in this team who can hold you down. If before Bailey Pang Pang and Chao Yuan's impression of Jialan was merely that she wouldn't get hurt and could shoot arrows accurately, after this beating of Chao Yuan, they finally recognized just how terrifying her strength truly was. Not someone to offend, definitely not. Now, recalling Lin Chia's previous reckless remarks about Jialan, Bailey Pang Pang couldn't help but start to worry for him. Rescuing 2 members of Team 017 was a good thing. Chao Yuan stood up, brushing off the dust from his clothes, but he wondered how the other 4 were doing. At the southern gate at the top, the tower-like man seemed to sense something, a look of surprise appearing in his eyes. What's wrong? The snake woman's vertical pupils slightly shifted, looking at the man. They've encountered Balkrand. The man slowly spoke. They are indeed not any special team. While they are strong, they haven't reached the level of a special team. Do they have any distinguishing features? The man hesitated for a moment. They all wear masks. One is Sun Wukong, one is Zhu Beiji, one is Tang Xing, one is Sha Monk, and there's a red boy. Journey to the West masks? The snake woman scoffed. What a strange combination. That pig mask resembles the young master from the Bailey family. He seems to have a lot of forbidden items on him, all matching the rumored descriptions. The Bailey family one? The snake woman's snake eyes narrowed slightly, her long crimson tongue licking her lips. Recently, the bounty for killing him seems quite high. Since we can't kill Xia Siming this time, bringing back a valuable head wouldn't be bad. Let's not rush. That Sun Wukong and Tang Xing haven't made any moves, it's hard to gauge their true strength. The man frowned slightly. Let's wait until we confirm they won't pose a threat to us before acting. All right. The snake woman seemed to think of something. By the way, have those 2 mice from Team 017 been caught? No. The man shook his head. Those 2 haven't shown up for 5 hours. They're probably hiding somewhere to heal, no need to worry about them. Even that C-team leader, after a while his spirit should be tainted by Balkrand, not to mention that little girl. True. The snake woman's eyes narrowed slightly. In this fog, the longer we drag it out, the more advantageous it is for us. Squeak squeak squeak. While the 2 were conversing, they didn't notice a nondescript gray mouse emerging from a pipe in the corner of the building. It quietly climbed to the edge of the rooftop, its tiny eyes watching the two figures, its gaze becoming eerily profound. Chapter 392, The Planner. At the top of the skyscraper, Qingyu seemed to sense something, her brows slightly raised. What's wrong? Lin Chia asked. At the top of the southern gate there are two people standing. Qingyu turned her gaze toward the distance, where the massive building with flashing neon lights was shrouded in darkness, making it impossible to see anything with the naked eye. Two people standing? Lin Chia was taken aback. Are they from Team 017? Not likely. They aren't wearing cloaks or any night watcher gear, and beside them there are three large black boxes. Lin Chia frowned slightly. Not night watchers, yet they are here in this area of spiritual pollution, carrying three large boxes. He pondered for a moment before asking, do they have any distinguishing features? I'll draw it out. Qingyu crouched down, a hint of frost appearing at her fingertips as she focused intently on the ground below, quickly sketching. Lin Chia watched in surprise. He hadn't expected Qingyu to be able to draw. Despite the rough strokes, she had already captured the likeness and aura of the two individuals quite well. Upon seeing the woman in Qingyu's drawing, Lin Chia's eyes narrowed, instantly recalling the ancient deity cult's snake woman he had once fought against, his brows furrowing tightly. Do you recognize her? Qingyu noticed the change in Lin Chia's expression and asked. She's from the ancient deity cult. Lin Chia spoke slowly, a serious look appearing in his eyes. What are they doing here? The ancient deity cult? Qingyu pondered for a moment after hearing those words. Is this incident with Bell clan related to them? Most likely. It seems this situation is more complicated than we thought. No wonder the polluted Team 017 didn't come to seek revenge as predicted. A faint light flickered in Qingyu's eyes. It turns out the opponent I was playing against switched players midway. She turned to Lin Chia. What should we do about them now? Should we call for their retreat? Lin Chia gazed at the towering southern gate under the night sky, deep in thought. Bell clan recognizes both of our auras, but those two from the ancient deity cult shouldn't know us. We've been wearing masks the entire time and I haven't made a move. She shouldn't know I'm Lin Chia. Otherwise she would have come to kill me instead of causing trouble for Bailey Pang Pang and the others. Moreover, we are merely a ghost team that doesn't exist in the records. Our presence here is an unexpected situation. Even if they want to use Bell clan to set a trap, we can't possibly be their target. Qingyu seemed to understand something. So, their target should be specifically targeting the Phoenix team that deals with foreign mysteries, Lin Chia stated firmly. By releasing Bell clan in the center of Suzhou, they likely intended to lure the Phoenix team over. They just didn't expect to attract our unknown team instead, which is why they haven't acted recklessly until now and sent the polluted Team 017 to probe. Since they've set up such a large trap and want to take action against the Phoenix team, it means they must have the strength or trump cards to defeat them. With just the 5 of us we shouldn't be their match, Qingyu said solemnly. Lin Chia narrowed his eyes, observing the two sketches below, and calmly spoke. I don't know that man, but I fought against the snake woman before. A year ago she was just a newcomer to the ancient deity cult. Even if she has grown since then, her level shouldn't be too high. So the issue must lie with that man or the 3 large boxes behind them. Qingyu was slightly taken aback by this and looked at Lin Chia in surprise. From what you're saying, you don't plan to retreat just like that? Since they believe they can contend with the entire Phoenix team, that man's strength won't be weak. But unless he is one of the 3 oldest evil gods of the ancient deity cult, no matter how strong he is, he shouldn't be able to shake an entire special team. Therefore, the problem must lie with those 3 large boxes. What's inside should be something specifically targeting the Phoenix team, effective only against them. Otherwise, they would have used them to eliminate us long ago instead of quietly observing from the sidelines. This indicates that, without those 3 boxes, they don't have the confidence to confront a special team. Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of brilliance appearing in them. Perhaps, as long as we plan properly, we might not be without a chance. Qingyu quietly gazed into his eyes and after a moment nodded. From a logical analysis standpoint, that does seem to be the case. But isn't it too risky? We are just a preparatory team with all members at the Chuan level. If that man is a Klein, we wouldn't stand a chance against him. To become a special team, we can't just shrink back at the first sign of danger and wait for others to handle it. Besides, we don't need to engage them in direct conflict. Lin Chia shook his head. Our mission is simply to rescue the members of Team 017 and eliminate Bell Clan. To complete the elimination and rescue mission while avoiding those two? A flicker of light danced in Nchinyu's eyes. It's quite challenging but very exciting. Lin Chia looked at Nchinyu's expression, slightly taken aback. Why do you seem so excited? Because it's challenging, that's what makes it interesting. Nchinyu's lips curled up slightly. And as long as the two of us work together, we've never lost, have we? Lin Chia thought for a moment and smiled, nodding. You're right. Whether it was the Nantua Serpent Demon or Bell Clan, they ultimately lost to us. It lost once a year ago and it won't win this time either. The two behind it are the same. Nchinyu said confidently. So, do you have any ideas? Our advantage is that we already know of their existence, while they haven't figured out our strengths and weaknesses. They shouldn't be in a hurry to act against us, and we've been wearing masks so they haven't seen our faces. Lin Chia pondered. But with just these points, how should we formulate a battle plan? Nqingyu blinked as if she thought of something, a shy smile appearing on her face. I have an idea. Under the night sky, the two youths stood at the top of the skyscraper, their whispers carried away by the evening breeze, quietly dissipating into the air. Chapter 393, Beiji by the Window. Sister Lon, are you hungry? I see there are snacks in that little shop over there. How about I go buy some for you? Sister Lon, that outfit you're wearing looks really good. With your temperament, it completely outshines those stars on TV by a long shot. Oh Sister Lon, your skin is so nice. Honestly, the maids at my house can't compare to you at all. Sister Lon, do you usually have an interest in Rolex watches? Bailey Pang Pang leaned close to Jialon, taking one of the dozen Rolex watches from his arm and measuring it against Jialon's wrist, shaking his head repeatedly. No way. This Rolex doesn't suit you at all. Let's look at something else. As he spoke, Bailey Pang Pang casually tossed the Rolex into the nearby lake, creating a splash and making it disappear. Chow Yuan. Bailey Pang Pang caught a glimpse of Chow Yuan watching him and immediately put his hands on his hips, asking defiantly, Old Chow, why are you sneaking a peek at me? Chow Yuan pondered for a moment. I was thinking how many days it would take for you to run the Bailey Group into bankruptcy after you take over. Bailey Pang Pang was about to retort when the gray mouse walking ahead of the three suddenly trembled, as if it had discovered something, and quickly scurried off in a certain direction. The three exchanged glances, a hint of joy appearing on their faces, and they hurriedly followed. Gusu City. In a certain building, 23rd floor. This building is almost entirely filled with small business offices. Once bustling with white-collar workers and bosses, it now stands empty. The dark night enveloped the sky, and the neon lights from the southern gate across the street shone through the large floor-to-ceiling windows into the corridor, where the lights flickered on and off. In a regular internet company's office, a blood-soaked man lay weakly in the corner. His right leg had completely petrified, the lower part of his calf shattered and missing, with the severed edge mixed with fresh blood that had already congealed. Captain Chin. By the floor-to-ceiling window, a pale-faced Molly shifted her gaze from the road outside, using her katana to support herself as she slowly moved toward Qin Kai. I saw Sun Wan enter this building. Beside her, Qin Kai, lying on the ground, smiled helplessly. That guy can smell blood from a distance. Even if he's controlled by Balkrand, his instincts remain. It's only a matter of time before he finds us. Captain. Molly reached his side and said seriously, we can't stay here any longer. I'll carry you out. Qin Kai shook his head. No, as long as I'm here, Sun Wan will definitely come looking for me. You should leave. With the cleansing charm protecting you, this mental pollution won't affect you. Hurry and get out of this fog and tell the higher-ups. We absolutely cannot let the Phoenix team in. The entire Phoenix team has a trace of Phoenix blood flowing in their bodies, and those two have cursed items specifically targeting this bloodline. If they come in, it will be truly dangerous. Molly frowned and said, but if I leave, Sun Wan will kill you. She gritted her teeth as if making a firm decision, and used her katana to support herself as she walked toward the office exit. I'll knock out Sun Wan first to ensure your safety, then head out of the fog. You've already been injured internally by Jing Zheng's sound waves. You can't win against Sun Luan. Qin Kai lowered his voice, speaking seriously. Listen to me, don't worry about me. I'm just an ordinary team leader. Compared to a whole special team which is more important. Don't you know in your heart? Molly took step after step toward the office exit. Hearing Qin Kai's voice, her lips pressed together, her eyes showing a stubborn look. So what? You're our captain. I can't let you die at the hands of your own team. Otherwise, when Sun Luan wakes up, he'll definitely commit suicide to atone for his sins. The previous captain of the Gusu City team has already sacrificed too much. I can't let you repeat the same mistake. Upon hearing this, Qin Kai's eyes trembled slightly as if recalling something, a hint of sorrow appearing on his face. Captain Han Shao. The lights above flickered and Molly pushed open the glass door of the office, walking down the long corridor. Behind her, a small gray mouse quietly followed. Ding ding ding. Ding. 23rd floor arrived. The emotionless mechanical voice came from the elevator shaft, and Molly's body suddenly paused. The elevator door beside her slowly opened, revealing a young man in a dark red cloak standing behind it, holding a blood-colored straight knife, his vacant eyes staring ahead. He sniffed the air, stepped out of the elevator, and his hollow gaze fell on Molly beside the elevator. The straight knife in his hand slowly rose, a strange blood red spreading from his neck to his entire body. The ancient god church. All, who must die. His throat emitted a series of whispers. Sun Luan. Molly frowned tightly and shouted loudly, her voice echoing in the empty room. Wake up. We're not the ancient god church. We're your teammates. Now transformed into a blood-soaked figure, Sun Luan slightly raised his head, staring at Molly before slowly speaking. Die. Whoosh. Sun Luan's figure flickered, leaving a blood-red afterimage in the air, and in an instant he appeared in front of Molly, the straight knife slashing toward her throat like lightning. Molly swung her katana, the blade vibrating violently at a mysterious frequency, meeting Sun Luan's straight knife. Boom. A terrifying shockwave shattered all the floor tiles around Molly, and following the direction of her blade, a gust of air surged, shattering the floor-to-ceiling windows several meters away, sharp glass shards falling from the height, disappearing without a trace. However, along that path Sun Luan's figure had long since vanished. In the next moment the blood-colored Sun Luan silently appeared behind Molly. Molly seemed to anticipate his movement, spinning around like lightning, positioning her katana horizontally in front of her chest while quickly retreating. Yet Sun Luan's blood-colored straight knife seemed to turn liquid, eerily passing through the katana's blade and slashing toward Molly's chest. But with her internal injuries, Molly's speed was still a fraction too slow. The blood-colored straight knife passed through the katana and solidified, lightly striking her shoulder blade, leaving a long blood mark. Molly staggered back a few steps, using her katana to support herself, her face paler than before, a trickle of bright red blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. That last strike had aggravated some of her injuries. She could feel her body gradually weakening. Sun Luan. Molly gritted her teeth, her eyes fixed on Sun Luan, anger flashing in them. Sun Luan merely held his knife, moving forward step by step like a zombie. He raised the blood-colored straight knife high. Bang! A blinding golden light erupted from the shattered floor-to-ceiling window behind Molly, flying past her body and directly blocking in front of her. Molly was taken aback and turned to look. In the hazy night, a man wearing a pig mask stood by the window, his back to the raging wind, holding a long sword, slowly walking toward her. Chapter 394. The chubby hero saves the beauty. Molly stood frozen in place as she saw the grinning Beiji mask. That golden light, that sword, and that rounded figure. Why did it all feel so familiar? Then two more figures climbed in through the window. The red-haired child in a blue robe was about to make a move, but the sand monk beside her pressed down on her shoulder and shook his head. This time let's just watch. Chao Yuan said softly. Jialan tilted her head in confusion, but seeing the seriousness in Chao Yuan's eyes, she silently put away the hard wooden bow on her back and looked at the chubby Bailey standing in front. Bailey stepped up beside Molly and the small, spirited eyes behind the mask blinked before he turned his head to look at Sun Luan, who was gripping a blood-red straight knife and ready to strike. Looking for death. Bailey murmured, and the silver long sword in his hand suddenly swung out, countless sword lights splitting from the blade, rushing towards Sun Luan like a torrent. Sun Luan's hollow eyes stared ahead, seemingly sensing the approaching danger. His body tensed up, transforming into a blood shadow as he weaved through the rain of swords. In the next moment he was right in front of Bai Li. The blood-red straight knife flashed like lightning, its cold blade aimed directly at Bai Li's throat. Bai Li quickly raised his silver long sword to block the knife. "Watch out!" Molly shouted as she saw this scene. The blood-red straight knife seemed to turn into liquid, easily slipping past Bai Li's long sword, then solidifying again, leaving a red streak in the air. Just as the blade was about to touch Bai Li's neck, a wave of intense flames erupted from thin air, intertwining to form a fire net that blocked the blood-red straight knife, halting it mid-air. Sun Luan's hollow gaze trembled slightly, seemingly not expecting such a situation. But in the next moment, a massive fist struck his jaw, the powerful force lifting his entire head upwards. With a crack, his jaw dislocated. Bai Li's uppercut sent Sun Luan's figure flying slightly, then he fell heavily backward. However, he showed no signs of stopping. Instead, he pulled a broom from his pocket and swung it fiercely. A raging wind mixed with thunder swept the blood-red figure away, crashing through 3 walls before embedding him in the 4th wall, utterly disheveled. Bai Li snorted, pulling out the sealing scroll from his pocket and tossing it to Chao Yuan and Jialan behind him. "You two help me tie him up quickly. Don't dawdle." Bai Li held his head high, exuding the air of a domineering CEO, radiating confidence. Jialan caught the tape and upon hearing this, narrowed her eyes, looking at Bai Li with a somewhat unfriendly gaze. Bai Li swallowed hard, starting to make exaggerated expressions at Jialan. Jialan of course didn't understand his meaning. Just then Chao Yuan leaned in and whispered something in her ear, causing her eyes to light up. She glanced at Bai Li, then at Molly, a look of realization appearing in her eyes. Without saying a word, she quickly walked up to Sun Luan, bending down to bind his body with tape while stealing glances at Bai Li and Molly, her eyes filled with excitement and curiosity. Chao Yuan, hidden behind his mask, twitched his mouth slightly and also crouched down beside Jialan, whispering, "Jialan, do you also like shipping CPs?" Jialan tilted her head in confusion, seemingly not understanding what CP meant, but that didn't stop her from eagerly watching the two in the distance. Chao Yuan glanced at Sun Luan on the ground, his expression suddenly becoming strange. "Jialan, it seems the chubby guy didn't completely subdue him. He looks like he's about to fight back." Lying on the ground, Sun Luan was soaked in blood, one hand propping himself up as he tried to stand, the other tightly gripping the nearby blood-red straight knife, swaying as if preparing to do something. Jialan's expression darkened. She quickly turned around and, without a word, delivered a heavy punch to his chest, sending him crashing back to the ground. With a dull thud, cracks appeared on the ground beneath him. Sun Luan spat out a mouthful of blood and rolled his eyes back, fainting. In the distance, Bai Li, wearing the Beiji mask, walked over to Molly, elegantly twirling his sword, clearing his throat, and was about to say something when he was interrupted by the dull sound. The two turned to look. They saw Jialan sitting on the ground, slightly stunned, repeatedly waving her hands in a gesture that nothing had happened, then extending one hand to signal them to continue their performance. Bai Li coughed a couple of times, looking at Molly. "Miss, are you all right?" Molly gave him a strange look. "Bai Li Tuming, don't you recognize me?" "Who is Bai Li Tuming?" Bai Li clasped his hands behind his back, gazing calmly out the window and said, "I am Marshal Tianping." Molly reached out, about to lift off his mask, when Bai Li suddenly grabbed her wrist. Feeling the warmth on her wrist, Molly froze in place. In the moonlight, beneath the mask, Bai Li's eyes gazed deeply at Molly as he spoke slowly. "Do you wish for me to be Tianping or Bai Li Tuming?" Crack. A crisp sound of a bone breaking came from afar. Jialan turned to look at Bai Li and Molly, her eyes filled with excitement. A piece of tape was wrapped around her hand, tightly binding it to the unconscious Sun Luan's arm. Chao Yuan beside her twitched his mouth wildly. "Jialan, be gentle. It seems like you've broken his arm." Jialan was taken aback, looking down at Sun Luan's arm, which was already slightly deformed. She hurriedly loosened the bandage, then turned back to the two. "What are you looking at? Continue." "Bai Li." Molly's cheeks flushed slightly. She looked into Bai Li's eyes and said somewhat angrily, "Bai Li Tuming, what act are you putting on? If you don't let go of me, I'll shake you. Bailey released her wrist, gently took off his mask, revealing a chubby face with a smile. Molly, long time no see? Seeing that familiar face, Molly felt a moment of daze, as if she were no longer in a perilous, polluted mist, but back in that reassuring training camp. How did you end up here? She couldn't help but ask. Chapter 395. Pursuing separately. The two mice have been found. At the top of the southern gate, a man with a figure like an iron tower suddenly spoke. The snake woman raised an eyebrow. However, they were rescued by that group wearing Journey to the West masks. The man spoke slowly. The pieces of Belcrand are almost used up. It doesn't matter. The snake woman said nonchalantly, they will eventually die in this fog anyway. Just a bunch of Chuan realm, the two of us can kill them all. Don't underestimate them. After all, there are still two people's strengths that haven't been revealed. The man said calmly, and we must ensure that Belcrand is well hidden. If it dies, the fog will dissipate. Right now, the last piece is constantly switching positions in the fog with its main body. Nothing will go wrong. The snake woman said lazily. By the way, how long do you plan to let those two wander around in the fog? You're a Wuliang, and you're so afraid of dying? A team of Chuan realm individuals shouldn't have anyone stronger than you, right? The man glanced at her, unable to hold back. The corners of the snake woman's mouth curled slightly, a wicked glint in her vertical pupils revealing a thirst for blood. Since they have all gathered together, wouldn't it be a pity not to catch them all? If they scatter like before, it will take a long time to find them again. Upon hearing this, the man's brow furrowed slightly. He thought carefully for a moment and nodded. You have a point. Now that those few are gathered together, it's a good opportunity. Can you handle it alone? The snake woman chuckled lightly, picking up one of the 3 black boxes behind her. I can. The man glanced at the black box in her hand and snorted coldly. You sure know how to choose. Since it's been borrowed, it should be used. The snake woman held the black box, her crimson tongue licking her lips, and gracefully leaped down from the top of the southern gate, disappearing into the night in an instant. The man stood alone on the rooftop, his gaze falling on the direction where Lin Chia and Qingyu were. After hesitating for a moment, he sighed deeply. Well, I might as well take a risk. He waved his hand and the 2 black boxes behind him vanished into thin air, then his figure flickered and disappeared from the spot. Heart of Suzhou City. They've moved. The figure wearing the Tang Xing mask suddenly spoke. Beside him, the Sun Wukong mask nodded. The snake woman went to Bai Li Pengpeng's side and the man came to us. He is a Wuliang realm. We can't fight him head-on. Tang Xing's voice was calm. Isn't that just right? The corner of the mouth under the Sun Wukong mask slightly lifted. Let's proceed as planned. The two who had been moving forward leisurely suddenly accelerated, their figures like 2 bolts of lightning, racing away from the city center. The man, leaping swiftly across the rooftops, let out a soft sound of surprise, a look of confusion appearing in his eyes. Did those 2 suddenly run away from me? They know of my existence and even my location. His eyes narrowed slightly. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly looked up, only to see several bats circling in the dark night sky, hovering above his head. Controlling biological creatures in the Forbidden Ruins, and they run upon seeing me. It seems their strength is indeed not impressive. The man let out a cold laugh, further confirming his suspicions, and without any more concerns, he leaped toward the direction the 2 were moving. Special Team Reserve? Inside the office building, Molly spoke with some surprise. I've never heard of it before. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. Bai Li Pengpeng smiled. We are the ghost team. Our existence isn't even in the files, so it's not surprising you haven't heard of us. Molly's gaze fell on Chao Yuan beside her, uncertainly asking, Are you Chao Yuan? Chao Yuan sighed and took off his mask. That's right, long time no see, Molly. You 2 are here, so Lin Chia isn't here too, right? Molly asked, puzzled. Of course, he is the captain of the reserve team and will also be the captain of the 5th special team in the future. Bai Li Pengpeng grinned, but due to mission needs, he and we are acting separately. Molly nodded thoughtfully, but since you are here to eliminate Belcrand, why are you wearing masks? Upon hearing this, Bai Li Pengpeng coughed a few times, somewhat embarrassed. Because we knew we would have to fight you, so we had to cover our faces. Otherwise, what would happen when you find us after coming out of the fog? Bai Li Pengpeng pointed to the 3 members of Team 017 tied up like Zongzi beside him, helplessly saying, Jingjing Wang Tian? Molly exclaimed in surprise upon seeing the other two team members. Are they okay? They're fine, they just fainted. But Molly looked at Bai Li Pang Pang with a strange expression. Why did you tie Jingjing up so? Oddly, Bai Li Pang Pang was taken aback and turned to look. Among the 3 members of Team 017, only the beautiful woman from the boat was tied up differently because she was tied by Bai Li Pang Pang himself, so it must be said that under Bai Li Pang Pang's special technique, the Guzheng beauty was tied up in a rather alluring manner. Bai Li Pang Pang scratched his head in confusion. I tied her up, is there a problem? Molly looked at him with a somewhat unfriendly gaze. Then Molly shot a fierce glare at Bai Li Pang Pang. You all come with me, remember to wear your masks. She turned around using her katana to support herself, walked through the corridor and entered the office where Qin Kai was hiding. Bai Li Pang Pang and the others put on their masks and followed closely behind. Captain. Molly entered the office and saw Qin Kai already lying on the ground, pale and unconscious. She hurriedly tried to step forward but stumbled and nearly fell. Fortunately, Bai Li Pang Pang behind her was quick to grab her. Chao Yuan and Jialan's expressions changed slightly under their masks as they quickly stepped forward to check his condition. Excessive blood loss, severe injuries. Chao Yuan frowned tightly. His condition is not good. At this rate he won't last long in the fog. We must take him out for treatment immediately. Jialan looked at the unconscious Qin Kai, hesitated for a moment, then grabbed his wrist, a gentle white light flowing into his body. You transferred the immortal trait to him? Chao Yuan felt Qin Kai's gradually stabilizing pulse and looked at Jialan in surprise. Can it heal him? Jialan shook her head. The immortal trait only stabilizes the state of an object. It does not have the function of healing injuries. This means she can only use the immortal trait to prevent his condition from worsening, but she cannot heal him. Chapter 396. The Return of the Serpent's Eye. But in doing so you lose the protection of the immortal. Is that okay with you? Chao Yuan asked, frowning. Jialan shook her head, extending a pale arm and waving it vigorously, striking a strong pose. Chao Yuan smiled and bent down to carry the severely injured Qin Kai on his back. Molly, how could your captain end up like this? Isn't he a strong sea realm expert? Is that Bai Li really that powerful? Bai Li Pang Pang asked, unable to contain his curiosity upon seeing Qin Kai's injuries. Molly frowned. No, it's not that simple. If it were just a Bai clan, our team wouldn't be in such a dire situation. There's an ancient god cult manipulating things behind the scenes. Ancient god cult? Upon hearing those 4 words, both Bai Li Pang Pang and Chao Yuan's expressions darkened. Last night, shortly after the mental pollution mist appeared, our captain led the team into it after we analyzed its characteristics. At first there was nothing unusual. We searched the mist carefully for a long time but still found no trace of Bai clan. Just when we were about to leave the mist to cleanse ourselves of the mental pollution and then re-enter, 2 figures suddenly appeared. That strange woman could petrify people with her gaze, while the other man could turn his body into sand and stone, trapping all of us in place. We fought fiercely with them but ultimately lost. That man's strength was terrifying, at least at the boundless realm. If the captain hadn't carved a path for us, we wouldn't have escaped the sandstorm. After that, the other team members who were trapped were affected by mental pollution and controlled by Bai clan, constantly pursuing us. Bai Li Pang Pang asked in confusion, what about you? You stayed in the mist for so long. Why weren't you affected? Our team had previously eliminated a powerful entity, and the higher-ups rewarded us with a mental protection item called the Heart Purifying Talisman. Since I was new to the team at that time, the captain decided to give it to me for protection. Molly took off a small object resembling a sachet from her neck, emitting a faint blue light. Members of the ancient god cult at the boundless realm. Chao Yuan's brow furrowed. What do they want by setting up such a trap with Bai clan? Their target is the Phoenix team, Molly said, looking up. They have something specifically aimed at the Phoenix team. But for some reason it wasn't the Phoenix team that came but you. Even so, that boundless realm man is not someone you can handle. The priority is to leave here quickly and report this to the higher-ups so that mask or medium teams can come. Molly raised her head and said seriously. Bai Li Pang Pang and Chao Yuan exchanged glances, then looked toward the gray mouse in the corner. The gray mouse lay quietly, not moving at all. What's going on? Bailey Pang Pang asked in confusion. Is Qingyu offline? How can there be no reaction to such important information? Chao Yuan pondered for a moment. He and Chia had laid a net throughout the mist, so they might have already sensed the presence of those two. Then why didn't they let us leave? Bailey Pang Pang reached back to touch the hilt of Lin Chia's straight sword, worry creeping into his voice. Could they have already been captured by those two? Impossible. With Chia's strength, even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't disappear so easily. He would definitely give us a warning. Chao Yuan thought for a moment, uncertain. Could it be that they already have a plan? What do we do now? Since they haven't given us a signal, we continue with the original plan. Chao Yuan took a deep breath. Okay. Bailey Pang Pang nodded. You don't plan to leave? Molly asked, her eyes filled with confusion upon hearing their conversation. But we trust Chia, Bailey Pang Pang said firmly. Chao Yuan carried the severely injured Qin Kai and stepped toward the office door, followed by Bailey Pang Pang and Jialon. Molly stared blankly at their departing figures, hesitating for a moment before following them. But after just a few steps, the people in front suddenly stopped. Old Chao, why aren't we moving? Bailey Pang Pang asked, puzzled by Chao Yuan's halt. Chao Yuan stood outside the office, his gaze sweeping over the surrounding corridor, his expression suddenly grave. He raised his hand and slowly spoke. Were there so many eyes in the corridor when we came? Bailey Pang Pang was taken aback and turned to look around. He saw that outside the office on the wall near the elevator, strange snake eyes had been drawn at some point, with dark lines sketched simply, giving off a chilling and terrifying feeling. It wasn't just the walls. The ceiling, floor tiles, elevator doors, flower beds, glass, even the arrow buttons controlling the elevator had inexplicably transformed into eerie vertical pupils. The entire floor was now covered with dense snake eyes. It's that woman, Molly exclaimed as if recalling something, her eyes filled with seriousness. The woman who can petrify people with her gaze. When she attacks, snake eyes appear around her. It seems we've already been targeted. Chao Yuan's brow furrowed slightly, his hand slowly resting on the hilt at his waist. Bailey Pang Pang's expression was equally grim. He seemed to realize something and took Lin Chia's straight sword from his back, turning to hand it to Jialon. Blue sister, you don't have the immortal protection now, so don't participate in the fight. Just take care of the injured. Bailey Pang Pang looked into Jialon's eyes, speaking earnestly. Jialon stared blankly at the straight sword in her hand, about to say something when Chao Yuan handed the severely injured Qin Kai to her as well. The fat guy is right. Right now you're as vulnerable as an ordinary person. Just take care of the injured over there. Zzz zzz zzz. The flickering lights above seemed to malfunction, suddenly dimming. The light changed from white to deep red, casting an eerie glow on the wide elevator platform, where a strange snake eye slowly emerged at the center. In the next moment, a woman's figure appeared above the snake eye out of thin air. Her cold vertical pupils slowly scanned the group, her crimson tongue licking her lips, a chilling smile curling at the corners of her mouth. The monk and pig mask reflected a deep red under the flickering lights as they stepped forward calmly to the center of the platform, staring at the eerie woman. The atmosphere instantly froze.